Hello. This is Antya from Byte Shuffle. Thank you for always watching my videos. This time, I summarized the gameplay and key points for Dimir Midrange. Depending on the number of him to Turek your opponent is running, this can be a very challenging matchup. Here is the deck list we will be using this time. With Eldrazi in mind, I adjusted the sideboard by reducing Chrome Mox from 4 to 3 copies and adding a second ad nauseam. I'll start with Hand Disruption, then use Infernal Tutor to get multiple Cabal rituals, aiming for a graveyard-based route, so I'll keep this hand. I'll use Hand Disruption to gain information. I took out him to Turek. I didn't play around days, because I wanted to fill my graveyard quickly. I'll fetch a second copy of Cabal Ritual. Since there's a chance of drawing into Veil of Summer, I think it would have been better to start with Underground Sea. With my opponent's Tamiyo about to flip on their turn, I need to speed up the game. I'll use Hand Disruption to gain information. I took out Force of Will. I'm going all in. From here, I'll increase the mana needed for the combo. I'll use the graveyard to execute my combo. I'll accelerate my mana while also building up my storm count. With enough storm count built up, I'll cast Tendrils of Agony. Before sideboarding, I'd like to review the list we used. First, the conclusion. I will explain it step by step. First, let's briefly review how the Dimir midrange deck operates. I'll play Tamiyo, Inquisitive Student. I'll combine draw sources like Brainstorm, Mishra's Bauble, and Ponder to draw 3 or more cards. This will flip Tamiyo, Inquisitive Student to Tamiyo, Seasoned Scholar, allowing her to function as a Planeswalker. Once she becomes a Planeswalker, my opponent can repeatedly cast him to Turek to attack my hand, and repeatedly use her 2 ability, aiming for her ultimate ability. My opponent will attack my hand with him to Turek while interfering with my lands using Wasteland, depleting my resources, while denying my mana and effectively using soft counters. If you fall into your opponent's strategy, their soft counters will function as hard counters, so it becomes difficult to secure a victory. To prevent this, it is ideal to build your mana base around basic lands. Therefore, I side in Carpet of Flowers and Basic Forests. With that lengthy introduction out of the way, here are the cards related to ANT and Dimir midrange. First, there are counters and hand disruption spells like Force of Will, Force of Negation, Spell Pierce, Daze, and Him to Turek. To counter these, I use Veil of Summer and hand disruption spells. Cards like Force of Will, Force of Negation, and Daze. If my opponent's mana is not open, I can also use Vexing Bauble to deal with these. My opponent will aggressively attack your hand with him to Turek. Additionally, if they use cards like Grafdigger's Cage and Nihil Spellbomb to lock down my graveyard, it becomes difficult to secure a victory. Therefore, I've kept Boseiju, who endures as a precaution. Since I often rely on the graveyard for combos using Gia's Will or Past in Flames, in terms of mana acceleration, Lion's Eye Diamond and Dark Ritual are more powerful than other options. I'll side out Lotus Petal and Cabal Ritual. By playing around days, I can cast the key card Vexing Bauble, and I'll keep this hand because I can likely withstand multiple Him to Turek casts. I didn't cast Veil of Summer here because if my opponent plays him to Turek on their next turn, it could lead to a loss. I'll use Hand Disruption to gain information. Since I have disruption cards and can't combo immediately, I took out the Value Engine Psychic Frog. The effect of Surveil is to put the card into the graveyard. I'll look for Tutor. I stacked Veil of Summer on top of Brainstorm. I'm going all in. From here, I'll increase the mana needed for the combo. I'll draw some cards with ad nauseam to refill my hand and aim for a win on the next turn. My opponent will target me with Mishra's Bauble. Unfortunately, I drew a land from the top, so I wasn't able to achieve Hellbent. This is where the adventure ended. I'll keep this hand because if my graveyard isn't locked down, I can build a game plan around Vexing Bauble. The effect of Surveil leaves the card on top of the library. My opponent cast Ponder, chose not to shuffle, and then drew a card. I'll look for disruption cards. The effect of Surveil leaves the card on top of the library. I'll draw Veil of Summer to protect against him to Turek, and because I can go all in if I draw another black mana. I made a mistake here. If Veil of Summer resolves, I should have gone for the ad nauseam route with Infernal Tutor. Due to my earlier mistake, I delayed going off by a turn, allowing Tamio to retrieve a hard counter. I'm going all in. From here, I'll look for ritual-based mana acceleration. Since my opponent has used up all their counters, I'll use ad nauseam to recover the resources I've spent. As for when to stop ad nauseam, in the case of Infernal Tutor, if the storm count is high enough, I can win if I reach 6 mana and achieve Hellbent. In the case of Beseech the Mirror, if the storm count is high enough, I can win if I reach 4 mana and have at least one permanent. I think it would have been better to play around Daze by putting down a swamp before casting Dark Ritual. Since I built up a sufficient storm count, I'll cast Tendrils of Agony. Thank you for watching up to this point. I apologize for the frequent play mistakes. I hope to improve at MTG together with everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to the channel and giving it a thumbs up. See you in the next one. This has been Antya.